These highlights from the Probate podcast will help you navigate life transitions like a pro. From senior living to estate planning to probate, you'll learn incredibly useful tips. Be sure to like and subscribe to hear more from Sherry Lund and her expert guests.
What is your process and when should somebody call you? How soon?
This has been something that's been actually a big learning curve for us. We thought that the ideal time to call us was about the 6 week to 2 month mark. And so we would have our funeral homes that were referring families over to us, wait a couple months and then send them to us. And we started getting a lot of complaints from families. And the biggest complaint was that we'd taken so long to reach out to them because there are those who feel like they need to do something. And I think a perfect example of this is my wife is a ballet teacher. So she's stay-at-home mom, but she likes to teach ballet. The owner of the ballet studio, her husband passed away about a year ago. And so Marquesa calls me and she's, hey, will you call Clyde and just give her our service to help her with the passing of her husband? I said, absolutely. So I call Clyde and I'm like, Clyde, I don't know if you know what I do, but we help close out the kind of the admin things of an estate. And I'd love to offer you our service for free. Anything I can do to help. And she's, oh, I would love that. I can't talk right now because I'm at the bank. So let me call you back this afternoon. And I was like, Clyde, you're at the bank, turn around and walk out the door. And she's like, no, I'm next in line. Clyde, just turn around and walk out the door. I need to talk to you right now. And she's, oh my goodness. So she goes out. She goes, what? And I was like, were you going to tell them that Spencer just passed away? And she's, yeah. And I was like, you know what they're going to do? They're going to freeze your bank account. Is that the same bank that you run your business out of? Yes. Then your business banking will also be frozen and you won't be able to pay your rent for the studio. You won't be able to collect checks. You won't be able to do anything until you get through that next process. And she was taken aback. Oh, I had no idea. And so what we find is the funeral homes have now completely reversed course and they ask us to reach out to the family within 72 hours after death.
Wow.
Not because we typically start the process that soon, but just so we can be there as a resource saying, hey, we're here. If you have any questions before you do anything, talk to us because there's an order. We have to do certain things in an order or it's going to create a little bit of a mess. And so, yeah, the sooner the better after someone has passed away. We can help them. And then oftentimes we'll talk through a few of their initial questions and we'll actually do our service. We usually start at about 2 to 3 weeks after death, depending on what the family situation is.
And what is that process like when they call you? Do they need to have statements on hand? Do they need to have bank accounts and all? Do you handle that the first conversation or?
Typically not. So typically the first conversation, we're really asking questions, figuring out what there is. And most families don't know. Even spouses don't know. It seems like one spouse dealt with all the finances and all the paperwork and one spouse didn't. And when that one dies, the other ones, I have no idea. I don't know. Do we have retirement accounts? Maybe. And oftentimes it's just asking those questions to start giving direction of what we need to do. And then we're going to help them search for those items. So we might be pulling credit reports to see what accounts are open. We might have them pull out a bank statement and just look at, hey, what money's coming into the bank? What money is going out? And just walking them through a couple tips and tricks to help them figure out what there is to do. And then obviously helping complete that process.
Yeah. That's awesome. Can you describe the types of clients that you get? Are they mostly surviving spouses?
Yeah, I mean, the surviving spouses, there's definitely the most to do with the surviving spouse because most accounts don't need to be closed, but they need to be transferred to one spouse's name, or sometimes they don't want to do that. So it's just a little bit more information, as well as like government benefits. There's a lot to do there. I don't know if you know this, but Social Security was audited a few years ago. It was a sample audit, so it wasn't a full audit, but they looked at widows and widowers who should have received their spousal benefit, and they found that only 18% were receiving their full spousal benefit.
Wow.
But 82% were underpaid. And those types of situations, obviously, there's a lot for us to do to make sure that all their benefits come through and those things take care of. And then with an adult child, we're losing a parent, that's going to vary on our work. Sometimes there's very little for us to do because mom's been in retirement home for the last 30 years. She hasn't owned a checkbook, let alone a credit card, let alone
That's true.
any bills, right? And so there's just not that many people to contact. There's no surviving benefits because there's no surviving spouse, all the way down to we've had situations where we had a young widow that I helped. Her husband was serving in Afghanistan, got really sick and ended up coming home. So she's raising 3 kids by herself and her husband comes back sick. She quit her job to take care of him and he passed away about 6 months later. Because she was young, she just was a little bit naive to how things worked. And wouldn't you believe it, her landlord comes over to her and says, "Hey, I heard that your husband died. And if that means you can't pay rent, then you might as well move out now so I don't have to evict you." So she's thinking she's going to be moved out. She's going to be homeless. She has these 3 kids. She has no income source. And I remember starting that phone call and she was just so panicked. What is going to happen to me? And after that one was a little bit longer because there was a lot of things to do with that kind of situation. And after about 2.5 hours, we had everything worked out. We got her benefits all set up. And I remember she was going to have $1,700 a month coming in. We found like a $5,000 life insurance policy. We found some rental assistance. We found all sorts of things for her. And she goes, "Matt, I can do this." And like hearing that confidence in her at the beginning, just that transition over a few hours was really beneficial. So it really depends on the family. Even those families where there's not much to do, sometimes having the peace of mind of going through a checklist with someone, figuring it out and being like, there's nothing else you have to do for your mom or your dad. Sometimes they give us the greatest reviews because they were just so stressed about it. They didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And
Right. And you guys are another set of eyes and you do know what to look for. So that the assurance that would come from having someone like y'all look at their accounts would just be that stamp of approval that they need. You can just check that off. They don't have to worry about it.
I've done a lot of situations where I'll go to like assisted living facilities and I'll talk about our service. And I always ask the question, who here's dealt with this? Raise your hand. What was your experience like? And they're always like, "Oh, I loved it. It was the best experience." No, they're always like, "It was awful. I had no idea what to do."
Yeah.
And then I always ask a question, how long did it take you? And guess what the number one answer is? I don't know. I'm not sure if we ever finished.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so they're carrying this grief and they're also carrying this worry and this anxiety.
Yep.
Something I missed? Did I do something wrong? Did I
Yep.
miss out on something for the
Yep.
rest of their lives? And just having someone go through like, that's it. You don't need to
Yep.
worry about it. That is really helpful.
I would have to say the same thing with settling the estate
Yeah.
from the property level. There's one family that I know of, it's the most extreme that I've heard of, but they've kept the house vacant, but they keep maintaining the lawn for 10 years. They keep the utilities on because they can't stand the thought of selling the property. So they're still liable for it. They're still maintaining the taxes, but no one is living there because they've made it into a monument. But even when people have moved on, say the surviving spouse, they don't always transfer the title. So when the second person passes away, then the adult child finds that probate was never really tidied up and finished. And yeah, it can just go on indefinitely. And then it becomes a bigger problem down the road.
It does. It's such a gift to your children
Yes.
to when you have the first spouse pass away to make sure that everything gets transitioned correctly so that they don't have this big, huge mess to deal with. If you can take care of it, that is such a gift. And it's so
Yeah.
nice when that has been done correctly.
Yeah. Yes. I would underline that from my personal experience. When my mom passed away, dad passed away 18 months later. Of course, I grieved my dad, but I also grieved the loss of both of my parents now. And so it was like some of mom all over again. It was different with dad and it was compounded, but to have that taken off of our plate would have been really nice, to say the least. So you're in 37 states.
Yes.
I won't make you name them all.
Just
But-
added Canada too. So we're headed up into
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
That's awesome, Matt.
To catch the full episode and explore more resources from the Probate podcast, check the links in the description and be sure to subscribe for more tips each week.